Obi-Wan Kenobi stands as one of the most celebrated Jedi in the galaxy, yet that legacy hides something no one wants to say out loud. He was never the mentor Anakin Skywalker needed. Through the years, fans have been trained to see Obi-Wan as the wise guide, the calm master holding back the fiery prodigy, but that image starts falling apart once you look at how their partnership was built. Anakin was not a student chosen by Obi-Wan. He was a last request, a final wish from a dying master. Qui-Gon believed in Anakin with conviction, but Obi-Wan only accepted him because he promised to carry out another man's plan. From day one, their bond lacked the foundation that every healthy mentor-student relationship needs genuine desire. Obi-Wan approached training Anakin like an obligation, something he had to check off, rather than something he believed in. A real mentor sees potential and chooses to nurture it. Obi-Wan saw a burden dropped on his shoulders and treated it like a rule he could not break. Because of that distance, Anakin grew up trying to earn approval from someone who never actually wanted the job, which is a terrible starting point for a kid who felt he had already been abandoned. Think back to how their relationship plays out in The Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan doubts Anakin from the moment he hears about him questioning whether he really is the chosen one, while Qui-Gon fights for him with passion. That contrast matters. Qui-Gon wanted Anakin and believed he was the future. Obi-Wan saw a rule breaker, a complication, and possibly even a threat which shaped every lesson that followed. When your teacher does not truly believe in you, every correction feels like criticism, every instruction feels like a warning, and every success feels like you just avoided failing. Anakin learned early that the safest emotional distance was silence and suppression, and that meant the most powerful future Force user in the galaxy was growing without the honest emotional support he needed. Now jump forward to Attack of the Clones. Their dynamic had not matured, it had calcified into a power struggle filled with constant correction. Obi-Wan nitpicks Anakin during the speeder chase, lectures him in elevators, and shuts down every attempt Anakin makes to express his feelings. Instead of asking why Anakin feels frustrated or afraid, Obi-Wan simply tells him to be patient or to follow the code because a Jedi should know better. Mentorship is supposed to guide growth, not force conformity. Anakin needed empathy, someone who would talk to him as a person first and a Jedi second, but Obi-Wan continued to treat him like a project that needed to fit the rules. At no point do we see Obi-Wan engage with Anakin's internal world. He never sits with him to explore loss or fear, and he certainly never addresses the trauma of leaving his mother at such a young age. When a mentor does not acknowledge the emotional reality of the one they are guiding, that mentee learns to hide their truth, and Anakin became very good at hiding everything that made him human. And here is the painful truth. Obi-Wan's approach created the perfect environment for Palpatine to step in, because Palpatine offered the validation Obi-Wan withheld. Obi-Wan operated from duty, not connection, which might work for a soldier, but never works for a mentor, trying to shape a person with complex emotions and overwhelming talent. Anakin craved a guide who understood what it meant to feel deeply, and to channel that intensity into purpose. Qui-Gon would have nurtured that gift. Obi-Wan tried to suppress it into silence. When Anakin tries to open up about his dreams of his mother, Obi-Wan dismisses him with dreams pass in time, as if fear can be solved by pretending it does not exist. This was not guidance, it was emotional shutdown, and that left Anakin vulnerable because when you tell someone to push down fear, you strengthen the person who benefits from it. Imagine if Obi-Wan had actually asked why those dreams bothered Anakin, or offered support instead of philosophy, the course of the galaxy could have shifted from tragedy to growth. Obi-Wan was a Jedi who followed the rulebook, like scripture, while Anakin needed someone willing to break pattern and create a new path, tailored to who he was not, who the Order wished he would become. This mismatch of styles created a subtle resentment that grew every time Obi-Wan reminded Anakin to be mindful or patient, rather than honest or present. The tragedy is that Obi-Wan was not malicious. He simply did not understand that success as a teacher is not measured by obedience, but by trust, and trust never existed between them. And when the relationship lacks trust, criticism becomes an attack, silence becomes punishment, and distance becomes permanent. Anakin never needed perfection. He needed belief, and that was something Obi-Wan could never give, because he never chose Anakin in the first place. By the time the Clone Wars erupted, their bond had settled into mutual tolerance instead of mutual respect, and that dynamic shaped every decision Anakin made afterward. Obi-Wan praised Anakin only after a mission succeeded, never during the process, which meant the validation came too late to influence healthier behaviour. Anakin felt seen only after the results, not during the struggle, so he looked to the one person who offered praise before the outcome. Palpatine. Obi-Wan never realised that his distance was not neutrality. It was neglect, and neglect is where doubt grows strongest. Anakin Skywalker lived through instinct, passion, and intuition, but Obi-Wan responded to those qualities with structure, restraint, and philosophy. Instead of connecting with Anakin through emotion, Obi-Wan relied on discipline, creating a gap neither of them ever closed. When Anakin expressed worry or fear, Obi-Wan treated emotion as a distraction instead of a signal. When Anakin shared dreams and anxieties, Obi-Wan offered guidelines and teachings rather than conversation or curiosity. Over time, Anakin learned that emotions were something he had to manage alone. Instead of expressing what he felt, he internalized everything. The Clone Wars shows this pattern repeatedly. Obi-Wan keeps feelings contained and expects Anakin to mirror that approach, while Anakin processes emotion through action and connection. This is why Anakin opens up to Palpatine instead. Palpatine listens, asks questions, and gives Anakin space to speak. Obi-Wan corrects. Palpatine engages. Obi-Wan values composure and self-control. Anakin values expression and intuition. Two different philosophies, neither wrong, just incompatible. Anakin becomes isolated because the one person assigned to guide him communicates through rules rather than understanding. When someone with strong emotions feels unseen, they naturally turn toward the first person who makes them feel heard. That isn't weakness, that's human. The deeper issue is that Obi-Wan never adjusts his methods. A mentor adapts to the student. Obi-Wan expected the student to adapt to the method. Their fighting styles show the same contrast. Obi-Wan waits, plans, and reacts with precision. Anakin improvises and uses unpredictability as strength. But instead of celebrating their differences, Obi-Wan often critiques Anakin's approach. Growth requires flexibility. Rules exist to support development, not restrict it. Anakin wasn't failing the training. The training was failing Anakin. The turning point comes when the Jedi Council asks Obi-Wan to monitor Anakin because they don't fully trust him. Instead of protecting Anakin, Obi-Wan agrees. To Anakin, that moment confirms his fear, that even those closest to him doubt him. Obi-Wan follows instruction because he trusts the system. Anakin interprets it as distance from the person he trusts most. After that choice, every conversation becomes a negotiation instead of a bond. On Mustafar, Obi-Wan says, "I have failed you," but he sees only the result, not the path that led there. He recognizes what Anakin becomes, but not how the structure around Anakin shaped that outcome. Their confrontation isn't only physical, it's the release of years of silence, distance, and miscommunication. Obi-Wan leaves believing he has fulfilled duty, but Anakin experiences it as the final confirmation that he is alone. A mentor does not walk away when things become difficult. A mentor keeps reaching, keeps trying, keeps believing. Because of that distance, someone else fills the role that Obi-Wan never did, a constant voice not of restriction, but of permission. Anakin was guided by people who valued what he could become, not who he already was. Qui-Gon would have mentored Anakin through connection and understanding. Obi-Wan guided him through structure and expectation. The tragedy isn't that Anakin fell. The tragedy is that no one reached for him before he did. Years later, Obi-Wan explains Anakin's story to Luke, without acknowledging his own part in it. Not out of malice, but because even then, he sees the outcome, not the process. The story of Anakin Skywalker shows that discipline without empathy becomes distance, and guidance without choice becomes control. Obi-Wan was a dedicated Jedi, but he wasn't the guide Anakin needed. He saw a responsibility, not a person.
Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button. My main channel is Critical Analysis Hub, where I post Star Wars content about the movies. My secondary channel is Critical Analysis Hub Plus, where I focus on the shows of Star Wars. And my third channel is Critical Analysis Hub XP, where I post comic books. Be sure to take a moment and check them out. Thanks, and may the Force be with you.